If you look around my office, you might realize I have kind of a love for dark, twisted cartoons. And a lot of that may be because I grew up with a lot of dark, twisted cartoons. Now, I'm not talking about the ones like Batman or ones that were meant for older kids. I'm talking about the ones that were meant for little kids, and they probably should have been made for little kids. And I loved the hell out of them. I enjoyed how much they scared me. I loved how every time you got through one, you felt a little tougher. So I'm doing a series reacting and reviewing them. We're gonna analyze how creative they are, how dark they are, and if the dark, twisted tone was warranted. So join me in taking a look at some Dark Toons. Can I eat your brains? Ghoul Friend was released in 2013. It has Goofy as a zombie. How can you go wrong? Let's take a look. So this was part of kind of a rebranding of Mickey Mouse. They released these new series of shorts, very short, like 3 to 4 minutes, and they combined the original black and white, very simplified Mickey Mouse style with the updated animation and technology of today's cartoons. And a lot of animation fans like myself have kind of been waiting for something like this, because even though Mickey Mouse is an icon and he's treasured and it's wonderful that so many people look up to such a kind individual, he's boring as fuck. If you were lucky, you would get a Mickey Mouse cartoon that would show off a technical achievement or an artistic achievement like Fantasia or something like that, but Mickey Mouse is not a very interesting character, so for them to totally rebrand this and make him actually funny was very tricky, but they did a pretty good job. This was directed and storyboarded by Aaron Springer, who had done a lot of SpongeBob and various other animated shows, but particular Gravity Falls. So you'll notice, again, like you usually do in the show, some really cool dark backgrounds in this. In fact, it happens literally when his car breaks down. The backgrounds are all nice and shiny, but as soon as there's a sound heard in the car, it goes dark and threatening. There's not even like a transition. As soon as it happens, he's in a terrible spot where you shouldn't be broken down with your car. These wonderful backgrounds were laid out by Joseph Holt, who has a wide range of animation under his belt, including Rick and Morty and Tron Uprising, as well as the Looney Tunes show, all very different shows that require very different styles. One of the tricky things as a background artist is that you don't want your background to overwhelm what's in the foreground, and with cartoons like this, where they're very simple and solid colors, how do you do that? Because almost anything is going to overshadow those very simplified drawings, but they really do a good job here, because you'll notice there's a lot of detail, but it's very sketchy, and even the colors don't quite match up with the line work, and that's done on purpose so that it blurs a little bit more. Mickey and Goofy and everybody in the foreground, the colors don't leave the line work, and they're very solid, flat colors, where these have a lot of shades, a lot of different brush strokes and line work that are not very solid, but they still look very impressive. I mean, you can just look at these backgrounds on their own and be blown away by them. It's not very often watercolor can look intimidating, but by God, it really does here. You'll notice too, there's a lot of smears of white, kind of like a storybook. You would look at an illustration that maybe would have kind of that white border around it. And that's the same idea here, is that it doesn't want to overshadow what you see, which is tricky because there's supposed to be a lot of shadows in this, but they really find that right balance. Good visual joke with this tiny little wrench trying to turn that great big thing. Whatever it's called. You think a guy knows cartoons and knows cars? Now, if they wanted to stop there with that reaction, that'd be fine. Just that squirrel dropping the nut with no facial reaction is fantastic. But then they have this to follow. Still great. So you have the blank reaction, the over-the-top reaction, him slowly walking back, the over-the-top reaction again, slowly walking away. That's like 5 jokes in the matter of 5 seconds. That's so good. Look at that, man. Look at that. That's a masterpiece. That belongs on that wall back there, man. I gotta hang that up somewhere. We've talked before in shows like Ren and Stimpy, they would have the background artists draw the main characters, even though that's not something they usually do, but they did that to add more detail and make it feel a little bit more off. It's the same thing here. I think a background artist can really add a lot of strange color and shading and dimension to it that you could probably get from the regular animators, but this both blends in much better with the background and stands out more against the background. See how the texture and crudiness of him kind of matches the tree and the tombstone. It kind of blends in with the rest of the creepy environment. So it's a very smart move. And just look at that. You are never gonna forget that. That's some deleted scene Black Cauldron shit there. I'll go into more detail with this in December. I have a Disney December review of these shorts, but Mickey Mouse is so much more expressive in this than arguably he's ever been in any other cartoon. His eyes will pop out, he'll get really mean, his teeth will, you'll see his gums, you know, like you never see Mickey Mouse's gums in a cartoon, you know? Which is a little risky, because he is such the family-friendly icon, so I think that was, I mean, not the boldest, but still boldish move that I think Disney could do, is really have Mickey be this big-eyed and expressive and kind of crazy. That has to be a Sleepy Hollow homage when Ichabod gets turned around on the tree escaping the Headless Horseman. I mean, it's gotta be. Again, keeping the center of the backgrounds kind of faded, very white, because if it goes too dark, they're gonna disappear. So they structure it so that the focus is always where it's supposed to be. Even though they're still amazing backgrounds, they never take away from where your eye is supposed to be looking. What I like too about Goofy's design is that it's such an over-the-top portrayal of zombies that, you know, usually there's little bones sticking out and flesh and stuff like that. Here, just, it's random bones sticking out. Like, there's one sticking out of his nose. What nose bone looks like that? There's one sticking out of his neck as well. There's one with his toe as well. It's just random bones sticking out, whether it makes sense or not. Again, even in this log, it's supposed to be very dark, but they have the light from the hole shining on him, illuminating him, which, I mean, this doesn't sound like that big a deal, but when you're laying this out, you have to keep this in mind, because both Mickey and Goofy can easily disappear in the background if it's very, very dark, so they very cleverly work around that. See, that's an example of both 2D and 3D working perfectly together. You couldn't get that three-dimensional running around his head like that in 2D, at least not as well in my opinion, but the reaction from his faces, I don't think you could get that as well in 3D. So they combine really great. This is where you can tell this director has done a lot of SpongeBob. You can see how the legs go very stringy and wavy and stretch and do all these weird movements. Really love that picture. There's a lot of these you can just hang on your wall. They're so beautiful. Guaranteed there are kids that are scarred for life watching that thing move coming towards them like that. How can they not? I'm sure some grown-ups are watching this. Now keep an eye on the backgrounds here, especially in these scenes, because you'll notice they get lighter. And what I like about that is it starts off very dark, obviously, as the tension rises, you know, things are going to get brighter, kind of like with the Headless Horseman, when things would go red whenever he was on screen. And now, as we're getting closer and closer to the end and things are getting more suspenseful, it's actually getting wider and wider. And I think the reason for that is that you're so used to looking at the darker shadows and the cooler colors and stuff like that, that when you get to these really suspenseful moments, that splash of white, it's really going to be striking and really going to stand out, especially against two characters that are entirely black. So something like this has a lot of depth of field, even though they're kind of flipping it around. As it goes deeper down, it doesn't get darker, it gets lighter, and the stuff that's actually closer to you is darker. It does the complete reversal of what you're used to, but you still identify it. You know how far down that is. You still recognize it. And the Goofy holler, come on, it'd be an insult if they didn't put that in. Really like these purples here. Purple is kind of a neutral color, and I think that's the right tone to go with here, because it's kind of wrapping up, but there's still some suspense in there too. Because he comes back, he starts piling on top of each other, and even the flies sort of land at the very end. But we're also getting close to the end and establishing he's actually not a threat. So you see, he's literally lending him a hand. He gives him his arm that works as a wrench to fix the car, and he gives him a ride. And what I like is as soon as he turns on the radio, again, not only the background change, the lighting changes literally with that click. There's not even a transition, just jump cut, boom, the lighting's entirely different. And it's nothing but peaches ahead. Very funny, very well done. So much to look at, not only with the backgrounds, but just the movement of the characters. I'm noticing more and more with a lot of modern animation, they're simplifying the look of the characters. I think so that they can get more expressive movement. They can go bigger, they can go faster, they can get the timing down much better. But even with that, you have just these beautiful backgrounds that are really good at mixing in the shadows, but also a lot of the white space. They know what to leave blank. They know what to kind of blur together so that it doesn't distract from the foreground, but you can still admire it. Like I said, some of these you can just hang on your wall. They're just so beautiful. Great color work, great timing, a really cute idea, but still taking some chances here. Not only with, Mickey being a lot more expressive, with his eyes bulging out and everything, but Goofy is legit frightening in this. I mean, he's just a scary looking character, even though you find out at the end he's just helping out, that's a good lesson, everything, but he's really, really creepy looking in this. They did a good job making him look really intimidating without necessarily going too far. I mean, his bones are poking out of him, but as long as, it's saliva and not blood, I guess that makes it okay. As long as the ooze that's coming out of him is green and not red, that somehow makes it fine. I love it. I love that it kind of took a chance with the designs. I love that it went a little darker. I've seen several of these, and I really, really enjoy them, and all of them have sort of their different artistic standpoints, or strong points, I should say, that are just really dazzling to look at, whether it's in the slapstick or the background work or the voice work, all of that. These are very, very well done if you haven't seen them yet. So let me know, did you see this and did it terrify you seeing Goofy as that zombie? Because I don't know, like, it's not gonna give me nightmares or anything, but I can just see so many kids being freaked out by this, like in the best way. Like, it's supposed to be scary, so I really, really enjoyed it. So did you like it, or was it just too much for you, man? I'd love to know what you think. Hey everyone, if there's any particular cartoon you want me to look at as being very dark or twisted, leave it in the comments below. Again, I'm not really looking for movie scenes or cartoons meant for teenagers or older. I'm talking about ones meant for little kids, but still scare the shit out of you. Whether it's an old cartoon or a new cartoon, let me know what you want me to look at.